Hey, what's up to everybody out there? Welcome to another edition of the Roundtable Talk. I am your host, C Money, and it is early in the morning, and I'm at a beautiful Uleta Park. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it's spelled Uleta Park and Community Center. I'm sitting at one of the playgrounds, of course, because we've had weather and it's been raining, and a lot of the benches and tables and stuff are basically full of are wet, and I don't want to sit on it, so I'm sitting here under at a and where the playground at. The playground has a tarp over it, so you can't be. And excuse me if I cough throughout the show. I just came off of a bad cold because of the weather. I got sick, and I had a cold, and it's been with the change of weather. I got caught in the rain, and it's been changing weather. So, excuse me if I cough throughout the show. Excuse me, but let's get right into it. In this episode, I want to talk about the current events. First current event I want to talk about is, of course, Donald J. Trump. As you know, this past Thursday, he has been indicted for the fourth time. If you don't know his indictments, his first indictment was when he allegedly had sexual activity with exotic star Stormy Daniels. The second one was his second indictment was when he had his involvement in the rushing in the storming of the state capitol, when they stormed the state capitol after the 2020 election. His third indictment is when he had classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago estate here in Florida, which is in Palm Beach County. And now his fourth indictment is when he was indicted in the state of Georgia for trying to overturn the 2020 election. Okay, here's my thing about this. This man has been indicted 4 times, and he is still eligible to run for presidency. I know you cannot run for president if you have been, if you've been the president. Indictment basically means, no, first of all, this past Thursday he was indicted. All of his people that was with him got indicted, and they got booked and had mug shots and then got released. He went to Atlanta, got booked, they showed his mug shot, and then he got released. So my thing is with that, how is this man still able to run for presidency if he's been indicted? Not once, not twice, but 4 times. There ought to be a law, regardless if you're the current president or if you're not the current president. If you are a former president that only did 1 term, and you are trying to go and trying to run for a president again for a second term, and you have been indicted, depending on what the indictment is, you should not be running for president. He got indicted for the Stormy Daniels situation. Okay, that's not enough to say, okay, you can't run for president. But the second one, you had your involvement over the people storming the state capitol because of the election. That right there, you got 2 indictments. That automatically should have qualified you not to run for president. They should say, okay, you got indicted twice, you can't run for president. And then you got indicted the 3rd time for having classified documents in your Mar-a-Lago estate. And now you're being indicted because you tried to overturn the election in 2020. So you don't think these 4 indictments that this man should not run for president? You are still allowing this man to run for president. The only thing is, he couldn't join the Republican presidential debate they had this past week because he was being arraigned to be booked and cuffed and mugged and with a mugshot in the state of Georgia. And I'm like, dude, what is the problem here in this state? They tried to get him out of office when he was in the office. They tried to impeach him. That didn't happen. When Biden won, all of these allegations and things came up with Stormy Daniels, and then basically the storming of the Capitol was the first basically thing. But Stormy Daniels been alone. It just was hush hush until after he was president, because a lot of people said they can't touch him while he's president, but once he leave that office, they gonna get him, and they did. They getting him for everything. Because as a president, they can't touch him. They can only impeach him for certain things. But a lot of people can't sue the president because he's the president. But once you a former president, or if you out of office, they gonna get you. And that was the thing that people say. They got him 4 indictments. And I'm sitting up here like, how is this man even still trying to run for presidency? Isn't there a law somewhere that even if you're not the president, if you only did 1 term and you're trying to run again, okay, let's say he's not the president now because Joe Biden is the president and he only did 1 term. So he can still run for a second term. But my thing is, if you have been indicted several times while you're trying to run for president again, that should overturn your candidate for presidency, and you should not be able to run. If you've been indicted 1 time, that's fine. But you've been indicted not 2 times, but 4 times, and you're still able to run for presidency. I don't understand, how is this man still able to run for presidency? Yeah, I know most of y'all gonna say, it's not impeachment. Only you cannot run for president if you're being impeached. You only can be impeached if you're in the presidential seat, if you're in the Oval Office. That's the only way you can get impeached, if you're actually the current president. He's not the current president, so he can only be, he can't be impeached. He can, in this thing. But my thing is with that, 4 times. And I'm like, dude, seriously. And y'all still make this man run for president. You can only be impeached if you're the current president, but you can be indicted as a former president. And my thing is, he's trying to run for presidency, and y'all still allowing this man to run for presidency. Will he win? I highly doubt it. Because even though there's a lot of people that say they don't want Joe Biden as president because he's the oldest president in the United States. But my thing is, you have so many legal issues and so many lawsuits against you. The Stormy Daniels, Stormy Daniels is mostly the only legal issue that you have. Everything else is mostly government stated. Like, everything else is mostly government. You had classified documents. You tried to overturn the election and all that. That's government thing. But my thing is, why is this man still able to run for presidency? He couldn't, like I said, he couldn't be at the Republican presidential debate because he was, of course, had to be cuffed and bugged and arrested in Georgia. But why is he still able to run for fucking president? Excuse my language, but why is he able to still run for presidency? I don't get it. So here's my thing. What do y'all think about this? Do you think the president should still be able to run for president because even after he done been indicted 4 times? Do you think that's a president, or do you think the president shouldn't be run for president? What do you think about that? Email me, roundtable00@yahoo.com, and don't forget to comment here. My next subject I want to talk about is a new wave of coronaviruses. Apparently there's a new wave of coronaviruses now rising, and there's no more cases that are coming out. And that's why some people thought I had coronavirus, because I was sick and I was in the house, and stuff like that. No, I didn't have coronavirus. It was just a bad cold because of the weather. I got rained on and I got soaking wet. It's because of the weather. Now, with this, I look at this. I'm looking at the birds because the birds are flying around. But with this, y'all know coronavirus is here for the next 5 to 10 years, basically. Because there are a lot of people that haven't gotten their booster shots, and there are still people out there that are getting coronavirus. They now have, here in South Florida, I know down here in South Florida, there are no more testing sites. I mean, at one point, they was telling people if you, last year, they were saying that the coronavirus funding has ended, and anybody who needs to get a coronavirus test, you have to pay to get tested for coronavirus. But then they had Miami-Dade had it when they elect the new mayor, which was Levine Carver, where she had it where they still was offering free testing here in Miami-Dade County, and which was a good thing. But within the past couple of months, they do it away. Now there's no more testing. So it's like there's no more testing sites here. So basically, all of your testing, either you got to go to a doctor to get tested, or you have to go and get an at-home testing kit. Somebody, one of my neighbors gave me an at-home testing kit, and I'm like, I haven't used it yet, but I'm like, okay, I can use the testing kit. Now, here's the thing about that. Like I say, coronavirus is gonna be here for like another 5-10 years. Now they're telling everybody, and the thing about a lot of people don't get booster shots and don't want to get the shots because of several reasons. Number one, the shots really don't protect you from getting the coronavirus. It's just help you fight it. So you can still get the coronavirus with the shots. It just helps you fight it easier, and you don't get as bad symptoms like you do when you had it. If you haven't, like I had the coronavirus and I was planning on getting the shot, but they told me, I didn't know I had the coronavirus, but they told me if you get the booster shot, it's going to send you to the hospital because the booster shot cannot help you if you got coronavirus, which to me is stupid because I thought they're supposed to have the coronavirus shots for whether if you got it or if you don't get it, you can still get the shot because the shot's going to help you. If you got the coronavirus, get the shot so it'll help you fight the coronavirus that's in you. If you don't have the coronavirus, get the shot so it helps keep the coronavirus from getting into you. It doesn't do none of that because if you got the coronavirus, you can't get the shot because it will send you to the hospital. Because that's what happened to my brother. And my brother didn't have coronavirus. He just ended up getting the shot and it made him sick. Because whatever is in that virus was in that coronavirus vaccine made him sick. So that was one of the reasons why I couldn't get it. There was two reasons why I didn't get it. One is because I had the coronavirus. And they say if you have any symptoms in your body, you can't get the vaccine. And that means if your body aches or if you got any symptoms or whatever, you can't get it. And then it came down to the point where my brother got his first shot. It sent him to the hospital because it made him feel bad. And that was just the first shot. He didn't even get the second shot. So it made me think not to get the shot because, those two reasons. And then the third reason why I didn't want to get the shot is that I found out it doesn't prevent you from getting the coronavirus. It just slows the virus down in your system, and it protects it protects the coronavirus from not getting worse in your system. That's just like saying you got a cold, but you got a flu, but you get the flu shot, and the flu shot doesn't help you not get the flu. It just helps the flu not get worse in your body. Or if you got a cold and you take the cold medicine and it don't help the cold go away, it just helps protect your body from making the cold get worse. And I'm like, that makes no sense. So a lot of these wave of cases that was out here is basically, and I knew there was going to be another wave because one of my neighbors asked me, did I have corona? And I was like, no. And that's the thing about it is a lot of these new cases are going up because people are still getting coronaviruses. It's not as bad as it was back in 2021 and stuff like that. But now it's just the fact that it's here and it's going to be here for like another 5 years. I would say more 5 years, because Down in Miami, we're still living in a pandemic. There's a lot of places that still, you know, we still have certain bus services that have not started back running yet down here. We have a lot of places that are still doing COVID like protocols, meaning that there are a lot of places before COVID, there are some places, like for instance, I did a show about it. Walmart. All Walmarts, majority of the Walmarts used to be 24 hours. There is not one Walmart here that is 24 hours in South Florida. All Walmarts close like around 11, 12 o'clock at night. And it's the same thing with Walgreens. Majority of the Walgreens is 24 hours. You got like 70% of the Walgreens is 24 hours. Now, a lot of the Walgreens are not 24 hours no more. And I was told by one of the Walgreens personnel, because I visited the Walgreens up in Broward County in Fort Lauderdale area, and one of the personnel say a lot of the Walgreens don't get business like they used to at night. So a lot of Walgreens are not 24 hours. Even the Walgreens that's near my house, one of them that was closest to my house was 24 hours. They stopped being 24 hours, and I found out because a friend of mine on social media posted about it, and they say they're not 24 hours no more. 90 to 95% of all CVSs are 24 hours. There are some that say they're open to midnight, but majority of all CVSs are 24 hours. But my thing is, and then like I said, you have some of these places that they only serve they close at a certain time. Some of them used to be 24 hours. Now they close at a certain time, or they have safety part. Even with the hotels, a lot of hotels, you can't have guests after 10 p.m. and they lock their doors at a certain time, and before COVID they used to have, they have their doors used to be open. You can go in, you can go visit your friend or your relative or whatever. Now they have it where you can't have guests after a certain time. It done been several hotels I've been to, and they'll tell you, oh, you can't have guests after 10 p.m. And then they'll say, oh, their doors are locked, so you have to have a key card to get inside the door and stuff. And I'm like, what? And before COVID, they didn't have that. Like you can go in and then you just going up to your friend's room or your relative's room or whatever, or whoever you was visiting and stuff like that. Now it's like they got so many protocols and things like that and everything. And, a lot of these stores that used to be 24 hours, like I said, it's not 24 hours no more. And a lot of these parks, they still don't have certain activities and stuff like that. And a lot of the, you can't use like paddle boats or boat rentals or, like Star Island. If you've seen the video that I did at Star Island Resort, I did two videos. I did two videos within the past few years. And still at Star Island, they don't allow the boat rentals, like the paddle boats and stuff. They are still closed. And I'm like, we're supposed to be back to normalcy, but they're still closed and certain amenities at the resort. So that's why I say a lot of these places that are out here, they're still in COVID protocols, because it have been places that, you can go to and you can, they have these things, oh yeah, you come back and everything and all that, Now these places, oh, you can't come back, you can't sit here, you can't do this, you can't do that, and stuff like that. And I'm like, huh? And I say, I don't understand it. And I don't understand how these places, they still make their money. I believe it's some restaurants that still only do delivery services and they don't have dining. Like, it's been places that I've been into, and some of them are small restaurants where they only have like one or two chairs and tables. Some of them still don't got their chairs and tables out because they still don't allow people to eat in their restaurants. And I'm like, are you serious? And it's like, people are still thinking we're in a pandemic. Technically, we're still in a small pandemic because coronavirus is here to stay. The coronavirus was here before it even became a pandemic, because remember, on the back of the Lysol cans, it said we killed coronavirus. So coronavirus, because everybody thinks that coronavirus was a man-made virus. It may be true to the point that it might be a man-made virus, but you also have to look at the facts and the protocols. This virus been out for years. Any virus that's out there been out for years. It's just that it got to the point where this virus got more contagious than it is. Just like AIDS. AIDS been out there for years. AIDS was out there probably in the 70s. It just didn't start getting into effect until the 80s and the 90s, because AIDS predominantly came from the crack era when people were shooting up with the same needles, and also people having sex with, you know what I'm saying, multiple people, and somebody contracted it from one person and they go around. It has been said that AIDS started when a man got AIDS from a monkey, and then he was a flight attendant, and he went around passing the flu around, passing the disease around. Now I don't know how AIDS actually started, but that's the rumor that's had it. But and then they also have that rumor that AIDS is mostly common in the homosexual population. I'm like, no, I'm not saying that I'm homosexual. I'm just saying that you can't put that down as a source of why the AIDS epidemic is going up, because no, there are women can get AIDS just as much as a man can get AIDS, you know. But y'all just think because men are sleeping with men, that's where mostly the cases are coming from. In a way, it might be true, but and another way, you can't put this all on one sex oriented, you know, gender, like a gay population or the gay, you know what I'm saying, or the homosexual community, you know. So my thing is, do you still think that we're living in the do you still think that we're living in a pandemic? Do you think that coronavirus will be here? How long will you think coronavirus will be here? I think it's going to be here for like another 5 years or so. Coronavirus, the pandemic ended in 2022, to my knowledge, because in 2021 we were still, when 2020 hit, we was all on lockdown. In 2021, the lockdown started lifting a little bit more. 2022, it came back to some type of normalcy. And now we're in 2023, and half the places are still not in normalcy. Let me know if you have any businesses in your area that are still affected by the pandemic or are still in pandemic mode to the point, because like I said, down here, there are no 24-hour Walmarts. There are only like maybe 10% of Walgreens that are only 24 hours, or probably less than that. A lot of these restaurants, they still don't allow people to eat inside their restaurants. You know, a lot of these places now, they have it where after a certain time, you have to, you know, like gas stations, after a certain time, you got to go up to the window now to get whatever you need to get. You can't go inside the gas stations no more like I used to be. A lot of these places where a lot of these hotels, you can't have guests after a certain time and stuff like that. It's a lot that's going down. So, you know, what is it that you think? My question is, do you think this pandemic is here to stay, or do you think that we are out of the pandemic, or do you think that the pandemic is going to be here for a couple of more years? Let me know what you think about that. Email me roundtable00yahoo.com, and also comment at the bottom of this page. And another current event I want to talk about is basically we've already talked about politics, you know, and everything. But my question is, do you think politics should have a role in the cost of living? Because I did a show previously talking about the cost of living and how down here in the Florida and the South Florida area, the cost of living is going up. So a lot of people are moving to Georgia and other states that are, you know, I just had a friend of mine who was supposed to be co-starring in some of the episodes that I'm doing. Their family moved to Georgia, and it was like, I believe the reason why they moved was because the cost of living, and, you know, South Florida is there. You can't live down here. You know, everybody has to be having a roommate. And the news said to live in Miami, you have to have 2 full-time jobs. And it's like, how can people you can't even much relax in your own house to have a full-time job. So my thing is, do you think the government should be involved in the cost of living? Because my rent just went up, and it went up like maybe $80. And to me, that's a lot. You may say, oh, that's not a lot. But to me, it's a lot. $80 more on your rent is a lot compared to $1 or $2. So my thing is, do you think that the government should get involved? Because everybody was talking about Governor Ron DeSantis, and it's like, oh, you're doing this and doing that, but you're not doing nothing to help the cost of living in South Florida, because a lot of these people are getting put out of their houses, and a lot of these people are getting put out of their apartments because they can't afford the rent increase that goes up yearly after yearly after yearly. Even if you're living in a rooming house, it costs you at least $500 to live in a rooming house. Back in 2000, 2001, 2002, a rooming house costs you no more than $200-300. I was living, and back in 2005, I had a 2-bedroom apartment, and my rent was only $475. Now I was on, and then not only that, I was paying utilities, which was light and water. After a while, they went up $100 more on my rent, which went up to $575, and I was still paying lights and water. I had to get out of that agreement because, number one, if you're gonna keep increasing my rent, I shouldn't have to be paying for one. Granted, even though water bill comes every 3 months, but I want to stay in a place where I don't have to pay for water. If you're going to keep increasing my rent, I shouldn't have to pay for water. A lot of these people are paying $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 rent, and then they still paying for utilities. The only utility you're supposed to be paying for is lights. Why do I have to pay $1,000 rent and I'm paying for water? No, water should be included in your utility. So my thing is, the government should be able to step in and to help people when it comes to cost of living. There should be a cap. First of all, my thing is with the cost of living, in every apartment building, there should be a law that it goes by your income. Because if you're only making $200-300 every paycheck, let's say you make $300 every paycheck and you get paid every other week. So that means you only get paid twice a month. If you make $300 a paycheck, that's $600 a month. And that's not including the taxes and everything that they take out. So you're banking on maybe $500 a month. So my thing is, if you're only making $500 a month, your rent should only be no more than $300. And then the extra $200 should be going to the lights and utilities or whatever. And then you should be able to get food stamps, because now the food stamp system is even worse than ever. You make $1 on your paycheck, and they tell you I've applied for food stamps in the past plenty of times, and my bills overpower my paycheck, and they still tell me, oh, you make too much money. And I'm like, how did I make too much money when I'm telling you all my bills? If I'm paying for rent, if I'm paying lights, if I'm paying, cell phone bill, this bill, that bill, whatever bill I'm paying for, and you're sitting up here telling me that I still making too much money for food stamps. And I'm like, this is stupid. And the government do not see this, and the government don't care, because it's like, I'm not saying they don't care, but it's like, they should have their hand in people. Yeah, you stopped renters from evicting people because of the pandemic. But now you have another cause. You got to realize something. A lot of these people are just getting back to work. Because a lot of these people who had jobs, like let's say you was a lawyer or you was a CEO of a big time corporation. Remember, I did an episode a while back that's saying a lot of these businesses got shut down because of the pandemic. So a lot of these CEOs and managers and supervisors lost their jobs because a lot of these restaurants, a lot of these corporate businesses, and a lot of these, mediocre businesses got closed and shut down because, like I told you, Sweet Tomatoes and a lot of these other places that used to be in business got shut down and closed. So managers and CEOs and presidents and vice presidents and all of them, they lost their jobs. Shift managers, store managers, a lot of these places that closed, they got closed down and they lost their jobs. And a lot of them, like even with lawyers and nurses and all of these places, a lot of these medical centers and a lot of these places, that was only up and running for coronavirus, they got shut down. A lot of these people was back out of a job, because, a lot of these people had to come out of retirement because they needed more nurses than usual. But a lot of these businesses that was once here before COVID got shut down. And there's a lot of businesses in Miami that have got shut down because of coronavirus, and they couldn't open back up because a lot of them couldn't afford to pay their bills. A lot of them couldn't afford to pay their employees. A lot of them couldn't afford to stay in business because they only had money so much to the point that they couldn't survive without corona. Because remember, even when the pandemic was going, a lot of these businesses still had to pay. When my job closed down, they terminated all their employees. And the reason why And I don't know if I told you this, because even if you're closed, you still have to pay to have your employees on your payroll. Like, say for instance, during the coronavirus, they had to pay for us to be on their payroll, and we was on their payroll because of the fact that we were still employed there. So for them to stop paying, they had to terminate all the employees, but then eventually they brought most of the employees back. But a lot of employees didn't come back because a lot of them found other jobs, and they found, different jobs or whatever. So they decided not to come back. But that came to the point was a lot of these people had to survive. If you're not willing to, if your job was not open during the pandemic and you needed to pay your bills, a lot of these people found other jobs. You got CEOs and corporate managers flipping burgers at McDonald's because they had to pay their bills. You have managers and, presidents and vice presidents doing delivery services for Uber Eats and DoorDash and, Grubhub and all these things because they had to still pay their bills. So my question is, do you think that the government should have their hand in and say of people of rent increase? I believe they do. I believe they should. So I'd like to thank y'all for watching today's episode. I want you to comment on all three. The first comment, the first story, do you think that President Trump should still run for president even though he's been indicted 4 times? That's the first one. The second one, we was talking about basically, do you feel, and this is basically, you ain't gotta, all of these are just how I feel. So you don't have to agree with me. You could disagree with me. That's why they have a comment section. That's why they have, email me roundtable00 if you want to, at yahoo.com if you want to be anonymous, all of that. Do you feel that, okay, let me go back to the first one. Do you feel that Donald Trump should still run for president even though he's been indicted 4 times? The second one, do you still think that we're living in a pandemic, and how long will you think the pandemic will last if you still think we're in a pandemic? And then number 3, do you think the government should get involved in the cost of living? What do you think about it? Yes, no, I think Donald Trump should not run for president because he's been indicted 4 times. I think the coronavirus pandemic will probably still be here for about another 5 years. And yes, I think the government should get involved in rent increase, even, because you have a lot of people that are being evicted and getting kicked out of their homes because they can't afford the rent increase. Let me know what you think. Email me roundtable00 at yahoo.com. Don't forget to comment at the bottom of this page. And we are at beautiful Uralita Park in North Miami Beach. I am your host, C Money. I thank you for watching. Don't forget to click and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to check out our other videos. And also, don't forget to tell your friends to watch us. If you have any topics that you want us to discuss, you can also comment at the bottom of this page and on any other page. Or you can also